Wicked wind in the metro area this Monday. The wind was howling from early this morning and into the night.
Brought down some power lines and pretty big trees. This was at Andrea's house in Aurora. That is a big old shade tree that came down.
Yeah, it was blustery down here. Up in the mountains, the system came with snow. It's been coming down throughout the day on I-70 through Loveland Pass. And Kathy, we never know when to say goodbye to snow.
I know, it's so weird. It's May and there's snow up there, but the wind and the snow made for difficult travel on I-70. The camera in Denver's been bouncing around a little bit, but the wind is really much improved over what we saw earlier today. High wind warning remains in effect nonetheless, and a winter weather advisory for more mountain snow. The worst of the wind this hour, Cheyenne, down from a 65-mile-per-hour gust last hour to 47-mile-per-hour winds. Black Hawk, Kenosha Pass, Loveland Pass, very blustery into western Nebraska tonight. All part of an area of low pressure over northern Colorado, generating the wind for us. We could still see gusts to 80 miles per hour. So high wind warning west of I-25, high wind wash Pueblo down to the New Mexico line through tomorrow. The snow kind of ebbing and flowing in the high country, still seeing quite a bit of snow on the radar tonight. The scattered showers on the far eastern plains, hard to get that water on the ground. But the big story tonight are the dangerous tornadoes that are erupting across Oklahoma City and Kansas City in a tornado watch area. Much more on this and our wind forecast coming up.
Give you a look at some of the other messes made today. Empty trailer tipped over by the wind on I-70 near West 38th in Wheat Ridge, and a dozen damaged planes at Centennial Airport, including one flipped on another. The airport saw 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts this morning. Jeff Greenstein owns the plane that was flipped underneath the other one. He says both those planes are likely totaled.
My plane, which if you've seen the picture is the one on the bottom, both wings are damaged. The tail is more or less completely crushed. And, you know, the landing gear have been holding up the weight of two planes right now, which they're not designed for. So, you know, there's a lot of damage.
Wind was unkind to the big planes, too, out at DIA.
The Denver airport was littered with delays and cancellations. According to FlightAware, there were more than 1,200 delays at DIA. The website also reported 51 cancellations. This storm system is moving across the country. There will be probably more flight delays tomorrow. More than 4,000 Excel customers in Colorado don't have power tonight. That means Nederland Elementary, Nederland Middle, Senior High School tomorrow. The Boulder Valley School District says both schools will be on a 2-hour delay because power isn't expected to come back until about 10 a.m.
9 News reporter Rachel Krause joins us now from Lakewood. And Rachel, among the places that lost power today, Colorado Mills Mall.
Yeah, Kyle, power went out early this morning for the Colorado Mills Mall and a lot of the area nearby. Now, that area, it's right behind me, but it's probably pretty hard to tell because the power still isn't on hours after it first went out. Now, a lot of the restaurants and businesses in the area sent their staff home earlier today, but some spent their day waiting in the dark and hoped that the lights would come back on.
Yeah, definitely not what I was expecting today.
On a wildly windy Monday,
Yeah.
for Hannah Thorson, things at the Carrabba's by the Colorado Mills Mall are strangely calm.
We opened probably around 11:30. It was on for maybe 20 minutes, had a couple tables, and then went completely out
The
again.
wind knocked out power to the restaurant, so she whipped up something to let folks know nothing was on the menu today.
Oh, I made this. It's just power is out. Sad.
These gusts took out power to half the mall and most of the businesses nearby. They even took out the light at Colfax in Indiana, creating chaos for drivers and folks trying to hold on to their hats. This kind of outage is unusual.
That last windstorm that happened, we were fine, so it doesn't happen too often for us.
With no customers and no power, all Thorson can do is wait.
We're hoping it comes back on. We're trying to keep everything cold in the walk-in so nothing expires on us, but yeah, kind of going through it today.
With their day and their food on ice, keeping their cool is no easy task.
If it does go on any longer, we'll have to throw a lot of product away though, so that's not good. Yeah, especially with Mother's Day coming up, so we can't afford to lose a lot of that.
Thorson hopes as these high winds die down, they'll carry away the quiet that's been darkening the restaurant's doorstep all day.
We'll be here as long as we need to see if we can open through at any point in the day, but you know, can only hope so much.
People in the area here have been checking Xcel's outage maps closely throughout the day, hoping that the power is going to come back on, but so far, no luck. And that stoplight at Colfax in Indiana still out hours later. Reporting live in Lakewood, Rachel Krause, 9 News.
On this windy day, Xcel leaders went before state regulators to explain why they shut off power to 50,000 people a month ago today in similar high winds. We learned at this hearing that the preemptive power shutoff cut power to Jefferson County's Emergency Operations Center. They have limited backup power, so they moved to a remote activation level instead. Those emergency managers gave some feedback to Xcel today, asking for a better heads up in the future.
I think the biggest thing we want from Xcel is advanced notification.
Earlier communication, more frequent communication, more accurate communication.
Xcel said today that future power shutoffs should come with additional warning, starting 2 to 3 days ahead of time.
Xcel didn't do any preemptive power shutdowns today, unlike last month when those high winds rolled in. We talked to several power companies today and found out only Xcel is willing to take that preemptive step. Colorado has more than 50 separate electric utilities. They all have separate rules and standards. There is no electric utility up and down the Front Range other than Xcel that plans on instituting preemptive power shutoffs because of wind. Instead, the vast majority do something Xcel does too.
If there's a problem on our system, a breaker opens and doesn't try to reclose in those elevated risk situations.
Most companies will make it easier for their power lines to shut off when it's windy. If power is lost, they'll send a crew out to inspect the line before turning it back on. It's an alternative to shutting everything down preemptively.
And just remember, you can stay up to date on the wind or all kinds of weather with the 9 News app, free to download in the Apple and Google Play stores. Aurora police are asking for help finding a missing at-risk teenager tonight. The department says Zelan was last seen in a full camouflage outfit walking north on South Granby Street around 9 this morning. Police say he is 16 but functions at the level of an 8-year-old. If you see him, you're asked to call police.
Investigators say a former El Paso County deputy who was missing for a year lied about having cancer and getting a divorce to solicit money from friends, family, and colleagues. Kevin Spear was arrested last month on 2 felony counts of theft and charitable fraud. An investigation into him started in March of 2023 while he was on medical leave after a procedure. Investigators say they learned several people gave him money after he told them he had terminal cancer. The arrest affidavit shows he married another woman while still married to his first wife and claimed he was getting a divorce. Spear never returned to work and was reported missing by his second wife in Parker. His first wife found him at a hotel in Denver about a week later, and then he disappeared again. Investigators finally found him last month and arrested him. A man from Castle Rock has pleaded guilty to murder for stabbing his mom to death, then setting her home on fire 2 years ago. Police responded to a house fire in a neighborhood off Founders Parkway and found Elizabeth Borlow dead inside. They also found a paraplegic man who couldn't get out on his own. He survived. Court records show Borlow had filed a restraining order about a year earlier against her son, Matthew Buchanan, saying that he was threatening her. Police found Buchanan a week after that fire in Florida and arrested him. He pleaded guilty today to several charges, including second-degree murder, and he'll be sentenced in July. A man who has cerebral palsy is suing 3 Castle Rock police officers for excessive force.
Body camera video from this traffic stop shows they took the guy to the ground and tased him. This video may be difficult for some people to watch. 9 News reporter Kelly Rinke is along now with that. Kelly?
Hey there, guys. Hayden Graham says he had met these officers multiple times before, and it's part of the reason why Graham's attorney says police took it way too far, because they were already aware of the challenges he faced with talking and moving.
Shows what a lack of de-escalation and a lack of communication does.
Hayden Graham was stopped for a traffic violation. His attorney says what came next should have never happened.
They didn't take the time to make sure and handle the situation appropriately. They went straight to force.
Milo Schwab shared this video with 9 News. Castle Rock police arrested his client in 2022 for driving without a license and for an expired registration.
What was so dangerous about this situation was someone they knew was physically disabled.
Graham has cerebral palsy. In a police report shared by Graham's attorney, an officer said the man took a fighting stance. Schwab says his client didn't threaten officers. Police took him to the ground, and then one officer deployed a taser.
Someone they knew struggled to walk, and someone they knew struggled to use his arms.
Schwab says 2 of the officers were aware of Graham's challenges with moving and talking because they had met him before.
There's no indication that it was going to go towards being tased. Before I was tased, I was commonly have maybe 1 to 3 seizures a month. I was having like 4 or 5 a week after that for at least 6 months.
Graham has filed a lawsuit against the 3 officers, saying he needed better communication from them.
It was rough. It was very unexpected.
According to the lawsuit, officers charged Graham with resisting arrest and obstructing a peace officer. Those charges were dismissed. We did reach out to the town of Castle Rock and the police department, and they tell us they don't comment on pending litigation. In the studio, I'm Kelly Rinke, 9 News.
A former CSU student has reached a $300,000 settlement for excessive force with the city of Fort Collins, according to her attorney. A Fort Collins police officer slammed Michaela Surratt face first into the ground in 2017 outside of a bar, and a video of this incident went viral. The officer grabbed her by the wrist that day, slammed her to the ground. Surratt's lawyer says she suffered several injuries, including a concussion. A judge convicted Surratt in 2018 for obstructing a peace officer and resisting arrest. She got 1 year probation. An internal investigation cleared that officer of all charges. After years of litigation in federal court and the U.S. Court of Appeals, the city and Surratt have now agreed to that settlement.